Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Once again, we are going to welcome you back to XRL's Realistic Racing League series. I'm Insane Layer 13, your broadcaster for this event once more. Last week, it was a very interesting event because 2 weeks ago, the points leader was not able to show up and enabled Ryan Hurricane the Ferrari to show up and turn a massive point deficit into a lead. Well, then last week, everything went exactly the opposite. Danny JJ came back and turned his deficit into a massive lead, coupled with Ryan Hurricane crashing out in the last 5 laps of the race out of second position. So, needless to say, the championship battle has been back and forth very much today. But real quickly, we're going to go ahead and give you a rundown of all the drivers who are going to be showing up for today's event. For the Mercedes team, it's going to be Level 6 BCN and XRL Steel. In the Scuderia Ferrari team, it's Ryan Hurricane and Mr. Anderson. In the Aston Martin Red Bull team, it's Kinsey Retro and Collie Boy once again. In the McLaren F1 team, it is your points leader Danny JJ02 and XRL Low. In the Renault F1 team, it is Smoothie25 and XRL Zola. While in the AlphaTauri, it is the driver combo of XRL Torpedo and PPR Venom. In the Tracing Point team, it's going to be Yun Maneuver and Higsby97. In the Alfa Romeo team, it's going to be XRL Edgar and Dave Ewart. The representative in the Haas team is currently Elfin Starfish, and the representative in the Williams team is currently Soak6366. That's your anticipated field for today's event. We're going to be going to Austria, and this is, at least in my opinion, one of the better tracks on the current Formula 1 calendar, and every single time I've seen XRL come here to do race, they always seem to put on a very interesting or at least good show in some way or another. So I'm absolutely looking forward to this. We should be underway in a few minutes' time here, but until then, I do want to go ahead and run us through the point standings as they are right now for XRRL. Again, we've already talked about the situations at the top of the field when it comes to the point standings, but real quickly, we want to go ahead and go from the bottom to the top like we normally do with the Drivers' Championship. Higsby, Ozda, Collie Boy, Venom, and Elfin Starfish all still have yet to earn points. Level 6 BCN has 6 points, while Mr. Anderson has 11 points. MCR Path has 28 points. Kinsey Retro has 33 points, and Young Maneuver has 34 points. Smoothie25 is 10th in the point standings. He has 35 points, while XR Seal is staying with 37 points. XRL Ultimate in the Williams has 38 points, while 7th in the point standings is XRL Wax with 46 points. XRL Low is currently 65 points, just 1 point from Hazel, who is 5th in the point standings. He has 66 points. 4th is XRL Zola with 78, while Pinkwo is hanging around in 3rd with 83 points. And then Ryan Hurricane has 126 points, while Danny JJ802 has opened up a 24-point gap on him at the top of the field. When it comes to the Constructors' Championship, things are a little bit different there. In the Alfa Romeo team, they are at the dead in bottom of it right now. They only have 48 points, while the Mercedes team is next lowest. They have 51 points. The AlphaTauri Honda team has 70 points, while the Red Bull team has 77 points. Williams has 83 points, while the Tracing Point team has 114. Haas has 122 points. Renault has 155. McLaren has 161. And the Scuderia Ferrari team has a very slight advantage right now. They currently are sitting with 165 points. So stand by right now until we get underway properly for today's event. Per usual, it's going to be the full 100% race. And for those of you who are here who haven't been with us before, slower drivers are put in the faster cars, faster drivers are put in the slower cars. So the drivers who are in the Williams and the Haas's are usually considered to be very extreme underperformers. So just staying by right now, waiting to get underway for the race itself properly. We should be loading into qualifying short-ish. We're just waiting right now. There we are. Everyone's readying up properly, so we're going to load onto the circuit very quickly. It's a relatively short circuit here. It's not very long, just a little bit longer than 2.5 miles. So a lap here will be over and done with relatively quick. It's still a very not technical, but very challenging track if the car is not properly set up. However, you do have 3 DRS zones here, and that makes it very, very ideal for overtakes, and then the corners that are in between those zones are not super downforce heavy. There is an element of downforce, but it's not so much that you're going to burn your tires up here. If you have a bad run qualifying, this track is a great chance for you to go ahead and get up the order. Now we are beginning to load onto the circuit proper now. No movement in the pits yet. Again, in this field, the top 15 will automatically advance into qualifying session 2, where they will get a chance to decide what their tire compounds are going to be. Right now, this session just sets up the bottom end of the grid. I hear some movement noise coming from the Williams team. And I believe I'm also seeing some of the Haas, but the real first drivers who are going to try and get out onto the track is going to be, I believe that is the... Ooh, that's going to be a little bit closer than I anticipated, to say the least. So this is Elfin Starfish. Here's XRL Low. He's coming out, but he's coming out behind... I believe that is Higsby. Yes, that's Higsby. And Higsby is coming out right there behind Soak, 6366. So despite the fact that Soak is a relative newcomer into XRL, he's trying to show up and make a big name for himself very early on right away here. Currently making the runs down there. Also, Mr. Anderson in the Ferrari has come out, as has the Alpha of Dave Ewart 23 and XRL Edgars. Edgars already on the way down into Sector 2. Again, 3 DRS zones at this track, and they all come one right after another It makes it very, very interesting, to say the least, to see overtakes here. Also, the way the corners are numbered here are a little bit weird. There's a little bend on the second straightaway right after turn 1, and for some reason that's recorded as a corner here. I have no idea why, but it is. Alright, it looks like XRL Low is beginning his first flying lap here, as is Soak and Higsby. This is level 6 Beastian in one of the Mercedes cars. He's following his teammate of XRL Steele. Steele talking very big today, saying that he felt very, very good about what he was going to be able to perform in the Mercedes this weekend. Although he has more points than his teammate Beastian, Steele has left a lot of points on the table throughout the season, having a lot of accidents and incidents on track and just not being very competitive overall. And most of his points have come from races where just other drivers have crashed out before him. We're going to go ahead and be silent and let his driving do the talking. A full lap on board here with XRL Steele. Well, no, I take that back. It looks like he's aborting that lap so that way Beastian can get a good run going. So Beastian is now going to begin the flyer lap. Soak 6366 goes to the top with a 105.688, and XRL Low has just had an incident. We'll probably see it right on board with Elfin Starfish, but Low has come around coming out of the final corner, and that's not going to be very good for him. Starfish doesn't care. He goes right to the top, but XRL Low is going to get knocked out in the first session of qualifying. We're going to try and see if we can get him in here and hear what happened from his perspective. Alright, coming into the party right now is XRL Low. Low, what happened there that took you out of qualifying so early on? Low, can you hear me? Yeah, Low, what happened back there that took you out of qualifying so quickly? Yeah, I hear you. Was it like, so was it an issue with like your car bouncing off the curbs and going into the inside wall? Was it just over rotation, putting the throttle down, or what? Do you think you have what it takes to make it up through the field, though? Alright. As far as we know. Alright, well that's the word from XRL Low as his teammate Danny JJ02, your current points leader, is beginning his warm-up lap, preparing to set up for a flyer very shortly here. 8 drivers have set lap times thus far, and will be Danny JJ02 and PPR Vim who will try to be the next 2 drivers to set a lap time in this session. You see Danny briefly pull over, let one of the Alphas go by and get some clear room, and then that is a Haas that is coming up behind that will also try and see if he can get a good slipstream possibly off the McLaren. We're just going to be silent and right on board with our points leader for a full lap around Austria. And that lap time is good enough for third for the McLaren points leader, Danny JJ02. His teammate Low, though, starting in the back. That's not going to make it easy for him because if both of the Ferraris qualify well enough, they could try and flank him and potentially steal points away. Here's one of the Ferrari drivers right now, Ryan Hurricane, 24 points out of the lead right now, despite entering last week in the points lead, basically snatching defeat from the jaws of potential victory. Now, Ryan Hurricane really needs to make sure not only himself, but also Mr. Anderson can make it into Q3 and qualify high enough up so that way they can kind of get Danny pinched between the two of them, so he can't really do anything without one of the Ferraris directly affecting him. But it's been very hard for any team to be able to pull it off within the entirety of XRL. We don't very often see 2 drivers performing on the same level, even in a series like this where the car you're in is supposed to be based off your performance level. Just for a good example, Kansas Retro and Collie Boy both have had very hot and cold seasons, but they've at least, unless I'm wrong, I think they've only had 1 race this entire season where both of them have earned points at the same time. And that's just kind of been the case for most of the teams. We'll see one driver do well and another driver kind of struggling. So Ryan Hurricane and Mr. Anderson really need to figure out a way to maximize both their abilities, because not only will it help them with the Drivers' Championship, but it will also help them with the Team Championship, having both of your drivers gain a good representation. Ferrari, although they're still leading the Team Championship, now are leading by a very, very small amount after hemorrhaging so many points after Ryan Hurricane crashed in the last 5 laps of last week's race. So Ryan Hurricane is going to be the third driver to break the 105 barrier. He goes up to 104.877. That's good enough for second at the moment. Again, top 15 make it in. Smoothie 25 in their no is out, about to begin a flyer lap, and Torpedo is in the middle of a flyer lap right now as well. Young Maneuver is on an out lap as Smoothie has just begun his flying lap. Zola and Kinsey Retro still have yet to come out onto the circuit. And if they don't come out onto the circuit sooner rather than later, they, by default, will not be the drivers who will not advance into the next round. And that is Danny JJ802, who has apparently gone off the circuit completely there. And I'm not really sure what's happened, but he is completely backwards and into the tire barrier. He's back underway now. I don't see any serious damage to the car, but it's a disqualification! And it's a disqualification for Danny! And your points leader has been disqualified from the session. He set an amazing time and has immediately gone right into disqualification. So for both of the McLaren drivers, it's going to be a drive from the back. And that is one of the worst things they could have happen here. Because yes, you can make up ground here, but it's not exactly going to be easy to do. We're going to try and get Danny in here and see what happened. But it looks like the game has disqualified him for driving or reversing the wrong way on the racetrack. Zola is on an outlap right now, and Young Maneuvers in the middle of a flyers. He's coming around the final corner, and he will be the 14th, realistically 15th, but technically 14th driver to set a lap time. He goes right to the top, 104.635. Again, I'm going to try and get Danny in here one more time. Kinsey still has yet to leave pit lane, but XRL Zola is in the middle of a lap right now, and as it stands with 2 drivers already knocked out, Lowe crashing out and Danny being disqualified out, if Zola can set a lap time and Kinsey doesn't get out on track whatsoever, then Zola by default will advance into the session. Right now, I'd argue that everyone who's in the top 9 doesn't really have to worry about getting knocked out, because even amongst the drivers lower down, Dave Ewart, who's currently 14th, is running a 106.366. That puts him roughly actually a bit more than half a second off from Edgar. So, yeah, as long as you can set a lap time, you should be in a good position here. And that is XRL Steel, who's apparently just had a little bit of an instant there at the end of that second straightaway. Again, we focus on Zola. Second to last corner. And then one of the more difficult corners in the entire schedule. You're basically chucking the down through a blind downhill, tighter than 90-degree corner, or almost 90-degree corner, but sure feels tighter than that. And Zola set a lap time 105.022. So as of now, all 15 drivers that have set lap times will be good. And the question is just going to be Kinsey Retro, as he is now finally coming out onto the circuit and beginning an out lap. 5 minutes and 49 seconds left in the session. Right now, Dave Ewart, 23, is a driver on the bubble with Kinsey Retro on the outside looking in. But if he can just set a good time, I imagine he should be able to easily navigate his way into the field for Q2. Again, flashback to Catalunya, where he had 18 drivers start that race as well. Although in the dev race, not for the XRL race. And the dev race, we saw Q1 basically end before it really ended, because we had 2 crashes and a disqualification right off the bat. And XRL Steel's retired in the pits. He feels no need to continue pushing. He's in the top 5 right now. But we could be looking at a similar scenario here if Edgar, Dave Ewart, or Kinsey Retro push a little bit too hard trying to make something happen. But here we go. On board with Kinsey Retro for his flyer lap here. PPR Venom's retired. XRL Zola's also retired from the session. That's an AlphaTauri that's slowed down there, and that would be XRL Torpedo, who is slow there, entering Sector 3. But I don't anticipate that he will end up causing an issue for Kinsey here. Alright, and Kinsey sets the lap time good enough to launch him into 11th position. So now Dave Ewart is on the outside looking in. He already knows because he's in the outlap right now. Edgar is the driver on the bubble, and Torpedo is going to try and set a lap. Right now, he is down a little bit on time regard to his prior best. And the gap between Torpedo and Edgar right now, it's only about 33 hundredths. I'm sorry, 33 hundredths. I mean 3 thousandths. 33 thousandths, I'm sorry. Edgar's still in the pit, while Dave Ewart is coming down to try and get a lap going. One that can take off time and get him above Edgar. That is a Haas of Elfin Starfish, who slowed down for a moment there. I'm not sure if he was trying to let other drivers through, if he had a legit incident. He was trying to make something happen. And there we are. Mr. Anderson has now been knocked down. Torpedo goes up by 0.2 up into 13th. Dave Ewart now begins his flyer lap. As long as nothing goes wrong, he should, and he has the fuel and tires for it, he should be able to rip out 2 or 3 laps here. That lap was slower than his prior one. So now he goes again. And that's Kinsey Retro coming back out into the circuit. And the two of them are side by side going down the straight. But it looks like Kinsey will be nice enough and pull over just a bit to let Dave keep at it. Torpedo goes off circuit so as not to be an issue for Dave. Dave seems to be having a little bit of issue controlling oversteer in the car coming through the slower speed corners. Edgar has retired from the session in the pit lane, so he is still in the bubble, but he feels very confident that Dave is not going to knock him out of the session. Again, he's still slow by about 1/8 of a second. This will be his last attempt at making this happen. Dave Ewart trying to bump his teammate XRL Edgar out of Q2 and get in there himself. As the clock ticks away, this is his last attempt at it. He's up by 0.07 that time. And he has improved. He improves by 1/5 of a second, but that's not even remotely enough to get him outside the 106s, while everyone else is very cleanly in the 105s or 104s. Dave is not able to get out of the 106s. He will not advance. Now, this is the interesting thing. Torpedo is still going at it, despite the fact that he is basically safe. He's still pumping the lead right now, pumping the iron, and he actually does improve a little bit in time. So we know in the AlphaTauri, Torpedo definitely has the ability to go a little faster than the times we were seeing there. But our qualifying session 1 is over. And at the top is Young Maneuver in the Racing Point, Collie Boy in the Red Bull, PPR Venom in the AlphaTauri, Ryan Hurricane in the Ferrari, Soak in the Williams, Steele in the Mercedes, Zola in the Renault, Beastian in the Mercedes, Higsby in the Racing Point, Smoothie in the Renault, Kinsey in the Red Bull, Elfin Starfish in the Haas, Torpedo in the AlphaTauri, Mr. Anderson in the Ferrari, and XRL Edgar in the Alfa Romeo. Dave Ewart was not able to set a fast enough time to get in. Lowe crashed out before he could set a time, and Danny JJ02, your points leader, has been disqualified from the incident after what appeared to be an incident coming around from turn 1. The car got sideways, he backed into the wall, and spent so much time going backwards that the game disqualified him. So we'll now very shortly begin to load up session 2. Here we are, right off the bat. It seems like softs are the initial preferred choice, although I imagine we'll see some drivers move over very quickly. And once again, it will be Soak who will be the first car out into the track, along with Elfin Starfish in the Haas. So the two slower cars, with supposedly the fastest drivers behind them, being the first one to come out onto the circuit here. See that rear DRS wing popping open for Starfish. He's immediately trying to get out there. Shorter time. This is a session where the top 10 drivers decide what tires you're going to start this race out with. Now they're joined by XRL. No, that's not Torpedo. That's Venom. Venom, who has come out on the circuit, as has Collie Boy. But for right now, it's Soak in the Williams, who will try and be the first driver to cross the line. And right now, only 4 cars out on track. Normally, you see a lot more coming out. But it seems like the motive on pit road for most of these teams are to stay back and wait a little bit, see what the actual times are going to be. Again, Soak is going to be running on soft tires, as will Elfin Starfish to begin this session. Now, Venom will be running mediums and Collie Boy soft. So for right now, if the soft tires are truly that much faster than the mediums, we may not see very many drivers, if any, start on medium tire compounds. And Elfin Starfish pulls over on the main straight to let Torpedo go and to let Collie Boy go. Soak, though, does not have to worry about him. We are continuing to focus on him because depending on the times that he's set, if he burns the field up and just goes balls to the wall, sets in a massive time right away, we may not see very many drivers actually try and run mediums at all in this session. Everyone may feel forced to run softs just to try and make it into qualifying session 3. There's your first lap, 104.964. So right back in the ballpark that we were seeing at the upper end of the field at the end of session 1. Venom has invalidated the lap he was on, and I believe Collie Boy has as well. And Elfin Starfish has as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a long time until we see another driver set a lap time. So that's very, very interesting. This is Mr. Anderson, the Ferrari, as he's coming around to start his next attempt at a flying lap. His first one in this session, but his next attempt overall throughout qualifying as he crosses the line and gets it going. Very short gearboxes for the circuit because although you do have 3 straightaways in a row, all of them are divided by significant braking points. So this is much more of an acceleration-focused circuit than something like, say, Monza or Montreal or Spa. Soak has just gone faster, 104.885, but again, he is the only driver thus far to have set a lap time. Now, PPR Venom is in the middle of a lap right now, and he's going to try and be the second driver to set a lap time, and he will be joined shortly afterwards by Collie Boy, ideally. Oh, and that's Elfin Starfish, and Elfin Starfish has an instant. He has gone off into the dirt. PPR Venom is at 107.912 in the medium tire compounds, and Collie Boy, another lap invalidated. Mr. Anderson in the Ferrari, right, medium tires. What is his time going to be? 106.067, so that's better. And Higsby goes to the top now, 104.790. So I think the message is very clear. Here today, the soft tire compounds are very much plainly the way to go. Mediums might not be a bad option, but right now, softs far and away are faster than your medium tires. Starfish has set a lap time, but he had an excursion off into the dirt, so the 126.491 is obviously not going to hold up at all. The Mercedes of level 6 Beastian is beginning a flying lap right now, as is his teammate XRL Steel, who is just a little bit farther behind him on the circuit. You can see that little dot farther up. That is Steel's teammate. Both of the Mercedes are currently running soft tire compounds. Torpedoes began an out lap now, as is Ryan Hurricane. Beastian seems to be very well put together as he's coming out of that final corner. We don't know if his lap is clean or not. Yes, it is. Beastian to the top, 104.610. And here comes his teammate XRL Steel, but it's not a very fascinating lap from Steel. Only a 111.832. He's going to go again, as now we see XRL Zola on the way onto the circuit there. Smoothie 25, his teammate is already halfway through his out lap. Yellow flag on the circuit ahead, but that shouldn't be an issue for Steel. I imagine it will clear up before it becomes any sort of issue. But 3 cars ahead of him are all slowed down. Hopefully they will not be denying him track space. Here he is. He's up by 6.1 seconds at the end of Sector 2. That was close. And Steel sets a time of 105.510, and honestly, that probably could have been a faster time, but something happened to Mr. Anderson, and then the Alpha Ataris of PPR Venom and XRR Torpedo. Torpedo is still out on the circuit. And that right behind him. Oh my god, and that's Ryan Hurricane. And Ryan Hurricane has had a huge accident putting the power down out of turn 1. So your 2 championship contenders have had an accident in qualifying. Now the good news for Ryan Hurricane, despite the fact that he went around very, very aggressively, to say the least, the car is still in one piece, mostly, and he should have time to get around and set another lap, if he feels necessary. But damage on the front wing of the Ferrari after putting the power down too hard coming out of turn 1 and spins right into the inside wall. Extremely, extremely lucky that he did not invalidate. Young Maneuver is on a lap, Torpedo is on a lap, Kinsey Retro is on a lap, Zola is on a lap, and Collie Boy are all on laps. Zola will be the first one of them to set a lap time, and Zola has a time good enough for 8th. Now here comes Torpedo out of that final corner into the line. His time will be good enough for 11th. It's going to be Kinsey Retro who will try and be the next driver. Now, Collie Boy, Kinsey, and Young Maneuver are already medium tire compounds. Higsby is the interesting driver because he's set the fastest time on softs, but now he has since swapped to the medium tire compounds. Yellow flag in Sector 3, and frankly, Kinsey doesn't seem to care because it's already gone by the time he comes up to it. Young Maneuver and Collie Boy are the next two drivers who will set lap times, and will likely be the last two, but Kinsey will set a lap time good enough for 7th on the mediums. Here comes Young Maneuver and Collie Boy. Young Maneuver in the tracing point pops up in the DRS, and at the line, it's good enough for 6th, while Collie Boy will set a lap time good enough for 8th. So this time it seems like the two Red Bulls are relatively even in at least pace, but it will be interesting to see if both of them will be able to run the entire race. So all the drivers have set laps, but Elfin Starfish is going to set a true lap this time, one with actual pace and speed, assuming he doesn't invalidate in the last corner. He is running the soft tire compounds, and as it comes to the line, he jumps right up into the 4th, 105.192. So for right now, Collie Boy is on the bubble, as he is going for what seems to be a bit of a cooldown lap right now. Oh, as he's into the dirt, that's not going to help. His teammate Kinsey Retro is also on a cooldown lap. PPR Venom is on another out lap. Smoothie 25 is still in the pit lane. Mr. Anderson is on another out lap right now. And Torpedo is on a cooldown lap as well. So for everyone below the top 10, they might need to see if they can jump on the softs if they really think making it into Q3 is going to be that important. Mr. Anderson, he's running medium tire compounds. Right now, the best lap times thus far are softs for 6 of the top 8 drivers. Ryan Hurricane and Young Maneuver are the exceptions to that rule. This is Mr. Anderson's next flying lap. He is on the outside looking in. Ooh, and that's a Haas. I think that's Elfin Starfish. Yes, Elfin Starfish has had an incident very similar to what Ryan Hurricane had, and now you have to wonder if maybe there's an issue with the way the torque is set up in the Ferrari power, because both the Haas and the factory's Ferrari teams, obviously, both run Ferrari power, and now you have to wonder if maybe a way that those engines are calibrated are going to be causing them issues when they put the power down a little bit too aggressively going uphill through a corner. Starfish, with wing damage, he is still on the inside though, and I wouldn't be too terribly concerned for him. Right now it's Mr. Anderson where our focus lays. He has medium tires equipped. He needs to see if he can leapfrog Collie Boy, who is currently about 0.4 of a second faster, actually closer to half a second faster than him. Venom to the top, 104.405, and Mr. Anderson does not improve. He actually is slower by a full 10th. Smoothie 25 in the Renault is in the middle of a lap right now, but already he's slower in the first sector alone. Kinsey Retro is in a very interesting position because he's just staying out there and has just kept turning lap after lap after lap. It looks like he's finally boarding the temps he was in the middle of and is coming into the pits. This is Smoothie 25. He is 13th. His teammate Zola is now the driver on the bubble with both of the Red Bulls on the outside looking in. So Smoothie going to try and knock his teammate out of the top 10. Zola is in the middle of another flying lap though. Oh, and Collie Boy is extremely slow back there in Sector 2. Smoothie did improve by 12 thousandths, but that's not even enough to get him up to Kinsey Retro, let alone get him into the top 10. Collie Boy is equipped soft tires as he's going out into the circuit right now, and Kinsey and that team, they are playing on soft tire compounds. Young Maneuver is retiring from the session. He feels no need to continue pushing. Smoothie 25, he is up by a quarter of a second right now, but he needs to be up by even more than that. He needs to be up by closer to 4/10 if he wants to knock his teammate out of the top 10. Mr. Anderson has come into the pit lane. Torpedo is in the middle of an outlap right now. Kinsey Retro still in pit lane. They need to get that Red Bull out into the circuit as soon as possible. Smoothie has lost a chunk of his time that he was up there in Sector 2 now. Edgar retires from the session, and now Edgar is the driver who is on the bubble. So if he gets knocked out, that's it for him. And Smoothie aborts his attempt. And with only 1 minute and 9 seconds left, that means he's not going to have a shot. Mr. Anderson is still in pit lane. He's not going to have another shot at it. Now Torpedo is beginning his next flying lap, and he's crossed the line with a 106.302 for his best lap thus far. If he really hustles it, he might get a second lap out of this, but realistically, I think this is going to be his only serious attempt here. Kinsey Retro is in the middle of an outlap, and Collie Boy is in the middle of a flyer, and if the fuel holds up, he will have enough time to do for one more lap. He was down on time, but he should have enough fuel to go one more time. Kinsey Retro, in the middle of an outlap, he needs to get to the line before the time is up. Zola is currently, and Kinsey invalidates, and it continues. So Kinsey is automatically not going to be able to do. He invalidates the time in the last two corners, and this lap is useless for him. So Kinsey is not going to have a chance to advance. Collie Boy, though, is still on track, but he's down on time from his best time right now. Torpedo is the driver to watch because he's up by 3/4 of a second right now. Soak goes up to second. And at the line for Torpedo, he jumps to 11th, but it's not enough. Collie Boy has taken a little bit of time off in Sector 2, but he needs to take a bunch of time off in Sector 3. He invalidates it in the last corner. And for Kinsey Retro, who's in the middle of an already invalid lap, it's going to be disappointment and frustration, while for Soak, he comes out of nowhere and is bringing the fight right to PPR Venom at the top of the timesheets. 104s for the top 5 drivers this time in the session, and most impressively by Higsby, a 104.790 on medium tire compounds. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Sorry, the top 5s were all set on softs. Young Maneuver and Ryan Hurricane are actually the only drivers to set their fastest lap times on mediums. Everyone else did on softs, except for Collie, Kinsey, Smoothie, and Mr. Anderson. They never adapted and put a good time down on the soft tire compounds. Let's see Soap coming into the pit lane now. No need to continue pushing. And that should bring us to an end of this session. Although Collie Boy is still out in the circuit, as is XRL Torpedo, they have already completed the laps, and it's basically AI that is controlling their cars right now. So congratulations to PPR Venom for taking the top time at the end of qualifying session 2, as we begin to load it to the qualifying session 3. The top 10 show up for pole very shortly here. But of note, Ryan Hurricane and Young Maneuver in a very good position, because they are both going to be starting the race on medium tire compounds, while everyone around them will be starting on softs. Being on the alternate tire strategy can pay big, big dividends here. Here, real quickly, this is just a rundown of the 10 drivers who will make it in, and here are the 5 that will not make it into the next session. Now we're beginning to load onto the circuit for qualifying session 3. Alright, I'm starting to hear noise in the pit lane, but no driver, no team seems to have made an active move to get their cars out into the circuit. And it looks like we've pretty much wasted the entire first second. Now, here we are, and it looks like it's going to be Higsby. No, Young Maneuver, actually. Young Maneuver is going to be the first driver to come out onto the circuit. He's going to be joined by XRL Zola and Ryan Hurricane. Those will be your first 3 drivers coming onto the track right now. Also, I just want to give a real good shout out to the Mercedes. They've been struggling like mad this entire season, and I've definitely talked and put them in a very bad light throughout the season. But both Mercedes drivers have made it very comfortably into qualifying session 3. This could be that breakout weekend that they desperately need. Here comes the Williams also of Soak 6366 as he is now coming onto the circuit, leading the 2 Mercedes. So of the 5 Mercedes powertrains that start today's event, all 5 of them make it into qualifying session 3. As opposed, only 1 Renault-powered car makes it in, and there's only 1 Honda, or soon to be Red Bull, but currently still Honda power machine that makes it in. Young Maneuver already began his first flying lap. He will be the driver to set the pace for the rest of the field. A little bit squirrely, well, not quite squirrely, but the nose was a little bit steer happy going through turn 1 that time. Purple sectors 1 and sector 2. And everyone except Elf and Starfish is now either in the middle of a flyer lap or setting up for their flyer lap. And there's the time for everyone to start shooting for 105.012. Ryan Hurricane is going to come across the line and will go immediately faster than that, 104.857, as does Zola with 104.860. Now, here comes Edgar. He decided to retire in the middle of qualifying session 2 when there were still a lot of cars that could have beat him, but the decision, the gamble, ended up paying off. He is in qualifying session 3 and is guaranteed at least a top 10 start. Soak goes to the top, 104.810. Now he is beat by the Mercedes of level 6 Beastian. Oh, and that Mercedes very nearly goes into the tire barrier, just completely botches that corner, though. His teammate XRL still has set a lap time of 107.076. He can definitely do better than that. He's already up by 1.8 seconds at the end of Sector 1 alone. This is Higsby, who's in the middle of a flyer lap right now. His teammate Young Maneuver has set a 105.012. What can Higsby do? He set the fastest time of all the drivers on the mediums in Session 2. .105.113, so about a tenth of a second off of Young's time. PPR Vim is in the middle of an invalid lap, and Starfish is still in a pit lane, while Soak has just gone faster, 104.577. Steele has improved by 2 whole seconds, so he sets a time of 104.984. Venom comes into the pits, and Starfish still in pit lane. Edgar in the middle of a lap right now. Seems to be a cooldown lap considering how much time he has lost. Higsby is on a cooldown lap. Yun's in the pits, and XRL Steel is currently in the middle of a cooldown lap as well. Zola is in the pits. Ryan Hurricane's in the pits. BC is in the pits. Soak is on a cooldown lap. So right now, not a lot of on-track action going on. We're still waiting on PPR Venom and Elfin Starfish to set laps. And in Starfish's case, we just want to see if he's going to get onto the circuit at all. So Higsby, he's done his cooldown lap, and now he's going for another lap and immediately invalidates in turn 1. XR Steel continuing a very, very slow run back to the pit lane. There's basically no fuel in that car, apparently. Those are the only 2 drivers on track, Higsby and Steel. And neither of them are in a position to set faster laps. So right now, we're in a bit of a moment of peace. We're stalled out. There's not anything seriously going on the circuit. Although it looks like PPR Venom is now finally beginning his trip out of pit lane. And there he is. He's beginning his outlap now. Steel has made it into pit road. PPR Venom will try and be the 9th driver to set a lap time in this qualifying session. No movement still in the Haas team as far as I can tell. But as I say that, here he is. Elfin Starfish is now finally coming, or beginning to come, back onto the circuit. As Higsby is coming to the pits. So PPR Venom and Elfin Starfish now have their chance to shine. And because of how quick the lap is, if all the drivers went to, everyone in pit lane could decide to wait another 45 seconds before rushing onto the circuit to try and set another fast lap or 2. So the times we have right now are very much in motion. Well, they're finite in the sense that you can't go back in time and change them, but those the times could end up changing in regards to drivers saying faster ones. Here we are, PPR Venom going to begin his flying lap now. And PPR Venom goes to the top of the 104.305, and now Beastie and Hurricane, Zola, Steel, Young Maneuver, Higsby are all on outlaps right now. Elfin Starfish is coming around to try and get his next flyer lap going. Well, he's actually slowed down, so he's aborting his current lap attempt. He's going to try again a little bit later when the track is not nearly as packed. Ryan Hurricane, who's currently 4th on the timesheets, is going now, and he's invalidates it right away at the apex of turn 1. This is XRL Steel. He currently has the 6th best lap time. His teammate Beastin has the 3rd best. No cars ahead of Steel. This Elfin Starfish will finally set a lap time 119.559, but he is definitely going to go faster this time by. BCN going very slow. He's going to abort the lap that he was in the middle of right now in order to get some clean track for himself and the cars around him. Steel up by 78 thousandths at the end of Sector 2. And he jumps up to third. Here comes the maneuver. Right up to second, 104.344. And the Mercedes Abisian has aborted his attempt. Zola goes up to third now, 104.429. So without doubt, the fastest time we've seen all day are coming out now. Higsby coming to the line, and he will improve to fifth, 104.680. So now 8 of our top 10 have all set times in the 104 range. Ryan Hurricane going to try and go a little bit faster this lap. He's down on time, so he should probably abort and just look at this as a cooldown lap. He's got one more shot as long as there's fuel in that car. Elfin Starfish, he's still at a 119.559 as he invalidated that prior lap. He needs to set a better and serious lap time if he wants to try and be anywhere higher than 10th. But I think it's very telling right now how all the Ferrari-powered engines are at the bottom end of the field, and Mercedes has 5 of the top 7 spots in the grid right now. I think it's very easy to see that Mercedes has an excellent powertrain for this circuit. And he goes up to a 105.401, but that's still the slowest time by everyone else by at least 3/10. Edgar is in the pits and is not going to get a chance for another lap. Ryan Hurricane is in the middle of a lap right now, and this is going to be his only attempt because as you look at the clock, time's up, over, plow. Nice job by Ryan Hurricane. Jumps himself up into the third position. This is your Pulsar Young maneuver, but he's on a cooldown lap, so he's not going to improve. Soak is the real driver to watch because he's been one of the fastest throughout qualifying 1 and 2. Up into second, but that's not enough to beat Young maneuver. Higsby is also in the middle of a flyer lap right now. Elfin Starfish is also. Higsby improves, but not enough to move him up the field any, and Elfin Starfish is on a cooldown lap because he does not have the fuel. So the field is set for this event, and it's going to be Young Maneuver who returns to the pole position with Soak 63.66, who will be starting alongside of him. The next row will be PPR Venom and Ryan Hurricane. XRL Zola and Higsby 97 will be in row 3. The Mercedes of Steel and Bestian have rebounded a bit. They are now starting in row 4, and Edgar and Elfin Starfish will be row 5. We're just waiting on the game to realize that, everything's over. We're also waiting on Elfin Starfish to officially retire because qualifying is over. Oh, Jesus Christ. The AI for Soak nearly tries to run over the AI of Ryan Hurricane's machine. Anyways, this is your top 10. Elfin Starfish in the Haas. Edgar in the Alfa Romeo will be 10th and 9th. The Mercedes sweep row 4 with Steel and Bestian. The Tracing Point of Higsby 6th. Zola in the Renault 5th. Ryan Hurricane in the Ferrari 4th. PPR Venom in the AlphaTauri 3rd. Soak 63.66 in the Williams 2nd. And Young Maneuver in the Tracing Point 1st. So we're just going to stand by for a little bit until we get the race itself properly set up and underway. Just stand by right now until we get into the race proper. It's normally about 3 minutes or so until we get onto the track itself. Just stand by until the race itself is actually underway. We should be loading onto the circuit relatively shortly, though. Very interesting qualifying session. Teams that we typically see stuck in the back of the field end up putting themselves in the top 8. Primarily the Mercedes team. Mercedes powertrains taking 5 of the top 8 positions as well. Really sells home the ability that those powertrains have. Should be underway relatively shortly here. In about a minute's time, they're supposed to be going, so. So just stand by until we get the race properly underway. It's going to be very interesting because both of the McLaren drivers will have to... sorry about that. I got a message. This is going to be very interesting because the dominant team and the two of the fastest drivers, XRL and Danny JJ02, are both going to be starting from the back of the field and trying to make their way up through the field. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. But everyone is now beginning to ready up as we are getting into the race itself. And for the first time in a long time, we're going to be seeing a Williams starting on the front row when Young Maneuver is taking his spot back on the top. 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go here. Right off the bat, Young Maneuver has a very, very good run going down the straightaway. It's Soak and PPR Venom are going to be fighting for second and third back there. While farther back, it's just a massive traffic jam. Drivers trying to find good lines to run on. Zola is going to fight with Higsby going down the end of the straight. And everyone has gone through thus far relatively cleanly. And just as I said that, it looks like Mr. Anderson may have been involved in an incident and has wing damage, I believe. Kinsey Retro, though, absolutely horrendous start. Doesn't even able to make it to Q3, and now he might as well have not even made it out of Q1. Here comes Dave Ebar as he dives against XRL Steel. Steel did not have a good start whatsoever. He immediately threw away that great start and will have to make something happen. But the drivers that I really want to point out, though, is that Danny JJ02 is already up into the 14th spot, and he is stalking Collie Boy. Mr. Anderson, though, in the Ferrari, I still believe he has a little bit of wing damage. Yes, he does, and that might prove to be a bit difficult for him. Torpedo. Oh, and there goes Edgar going into the pits right now as Young Maneuver holds the lead over PPR Venom right now. Higsby right there behind Zola. And Kinsey Retro in a very interesting position. He just elected to start this race on hard tire compound, something that no one else chose to do. This is level 6 Beastian right there behind Starfish, and he has Low and McLaren behind him. Oh, that's no bueno. And that means that Lowe is going to be able to shoot up on the inside of Beastie and capitalize on the Mercedes mistake. And now he's going to put some focus on Elfin Starfish. Ryan Hurricane is on the medium tire compounds, as is Young Maneuver. So for right now, Ryan Hurricane has slipped to 6th. Those positions will gradually come back to him as the drivers 2nd through 5th all see their tires go away. Meanwhile, Higsby is right there behind Soak. Soak started on the front row but didn't have a good run off the line, and is now trying to hold on to a podium position against Higsby as Venom has now set the fastest lap of the session. And that is a McLaren that has gone off circuit there. And not only is it a McLaren, that is your points leader, Danny JJ02, who has had an incident and has gone around. And there's a battle for a lead right now. PPR Venom and Young Maneuver are having a drag race down this 3rd straightaway. The DRS has already been enabled in PPR's favor. Young Maneuver is going to have the outside line, but I think this is going to go in Venom's favor unless he makes a mistake. He's really putting those soft tires to use, but Young Maneuver is hanging in there. They've been side by side for about a 1/3 of a lap already, and they've not given up yet. They're still side by side. And they're still side by side, and it looks like finally Venom is going to capitalize and put himself into the top position. The soft tire compounds are so much bloody faster than the mediums here. That's not even remotely funny. Already he's opened up a 6-10 second gap over the tracing point. The thing is, those softs will go away eventually, and then what? Can he get far enough away from Young Maneuver in order to hold on to the lead when those tires die? I don't think so, because Young Maneuver got a better line through turn 1 and is already back there behind the Alpha, and he has DRS. Now he's going to be the one on the inside of the Alpha Tauri going through turn 2. Well, turn 3 technically, but realistically it's turn 2. But now Higsby has closed in on both of them. So we could be looking at a 3-way battle for this position because a DRS train is forming for the lead of this race. They're out of the DRS zones now. At this point, the advantage is going to be in Venom's favor, and to a lesser extent, Young Maneuvers. Young Maneuver has the harder tire compound. It can last being in the dirty air a little bit longer, and Venom has nothing but clean air ahead of him. Level 6 Beastian has fallen all the way to 17th position. I didn't catch what happened, but he has dropped significantly out of the top 10. So despite having a great qualifying run, neither of the Mercedes drivers are in the points-paying positions. It's going to be a long day for Mercedes, it seems, as Mr. Anderson gets a time penalty for track violations. Here we are. Higsby has DRS on Young Maneuver, and Young Maneuver has DRS on Venom, but none of them are really close enough to make any moves happen yet. And that is Collie Boy. And Collie Boy has just had an incident and has gone around there, coming out of turn number 1. And there's front wing damage on the Red Bull, as he is now going to fall down through the Gorder. XRL Low and Zola are in it. Low is doing a good job representing the McLaren team right now, being very aggressive with the moves going up to the field. There is no DRS here, so everything in this section of the track is 100% driver skill and focus, and Low is already starting to open up a gap against Soak and Zola. Soak, Zola, both. Oh, wow! And Soak with a humongous spin off the circuit, and I don't know how that car is still in one piece. That thing went off so aggressively, I legitimately thought that car was going to explode into a million pieces. But now, Soak is back onto the racetrack, and Kinsey Retro goes up into 13th position. So bits and pieces of this race are starting to come in his favor. Venom has walked away from Young Maneuver, and Higsby is closing in on his teammate. So yeah, Young Maneuver is probably one of the fastest drivers here, but it simply doesn't matter because those medium tires are god-awfully slow compared to the softs. Torpedo, Starfish, neck and neck coming out of turn 3, and in the next DRS zone, and there's contact, and Starfish hard into the inside wall. And the front wing is completely knocked off the car, and that's like the 4th incident we've seen today where somehow it doesn't destroy the car. He's going to be able to keep going. And for Mr. Anderson, Soak, and Collie Boy, this was great for them because they were all able to come into the pits right before that virtual safety car came out, so they're not going to lose as much time. But for Elfin Starfish, it's going to be frustrating because he needs to drag that front wing, that Haas that now doesn't have a front wing, all the way around the circuit. It smells like bleak. It smells like bad mid-2000s anime. Alright, but meanwhile, we're still under the virtual safety car, but when we get going again, as we see Elfin Starfish finally in the pit lane, when we get going again, the question is going to be, can Higsby do anything to overtake his teammate Young Maneuver, and how bad are those medium tire compounds in all actuality? Ryan Hurricane is still just outside, just within DRS range of Zola ahead of him, and still 3 seconds out from Torpedo, but Torpedo is likely going to be able to start walking that gap down. Low has now caught Higsby, and Higsby is still there behind Young Maneuver. And again, there are 3 DRS zones all in a row here at this circuit, so it makes it very, very interesting. And the other interesting thing is that level 6 Beastian currently is at risk, and Edgar has just had a DNF. Something has happened to Edgar, and that car is completely destroyed in the infield there. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but it's done for Edgar. We're going to try and get Edgar in here and see if he wants to share what happened. We're under green here. Low trying to close in on Higsby. It can't do anything because Higsby has DRS on Young Maneuver, and Young Maneuver is back to having DRS on Venom. Ooh, and was that Beastian? Yes, that was Beastian, who has just come to a complete dead stop right on the side of the road, on the side of the track. And the Mercedes is already the Mercedes is already a lap down within the first 8 laps of the race. Qualified in the top 8 and is already a lap down. I don't need to say what you all are thinking. They might want to try and get a better driver in that car. Soak on the inside of Collie Boy. Both these drivers started higher up the grid and now trying to make up for mistakes that have happened. Venom already in the pit lane, and this is a very interesting development. Our leader coming in early, and he might try to jump onto hard tire compounds. No, he's on another set of softs, or is this a drive-through? I think Venom was serving a drive-through. It must have been a drive-through because he didn't stop to do anything. But now this means that the lead goes back in the favor of the tracing points of Young Maneuver and Higsby, with Lowe right behind. So a 3-car battle for the top spot. They're all starting to run away a little bit from Zola. And right now, your points leader, Danny JJ802, is currently running the 11th position, while Ryan Hurricane is currently running 5th. So yes, if the race was to finish where everyone is right now, Danny would still have the points lead, but Hurricane would take a good chunk out of it. It would probably cut down to about 2/3 of what it actually is. Again, Higsby has DRS on Young Maneuver. Lowe has DRS on both of them, but he's not close enough to do anything on this straightaway. Will Higsby do something against his teammate, though, going into turn 3? He thinks better of it as Young Maneuver just blocks off the outside line. Now, it was a little too late for Higsby to do something on the inside, so now Higsby's last chance is to send it up on the inside going into this corner, and I think he's going to think better of it then. But he's still right there. The softs are still faster than the mediums, and we're 9 laps into this race. Lowe in a very difficult position because he's going to be behind these 2 drivers' aerodynamic wake, and it's going to be crisscrossed in front of the nose of that car all around the 2nd and 3rd sectors of the track, so keeping up with the cars ahead is going to be very hard, and the fact that he's been able to do it thus far speaks wonders to his ability. Higsby continuing to pressure Young Maneuver. Young Maneuver just has a very good defensive line going through the corners and is keeping his teammate behind him, but Higsby has the best chance he's going to have all day right here. He's on the outside of Young Maneuver, and Lowe is there. Lowe wants to make something happen, but he spins the car a little bit, putting the power down. Higsby on the outside of Young Maneuver, but now Young Maneuver actually ended up with DRS against Higsby, so he's going to hold on to that position over his teammate. And Lowe closes right back in. So an extremely active battle for the top 3 positions here on track. Farther back in the field, XRL Steel is now up into the 9th position and is trying to put some work in on Dave Ewart. But most of the other battles on track have dissipated outside of that one, and this battle for the top 3 positions here. Again, the car in front, Young Maneuver, has medium tires, which are significantly slower than the softs, but will last significantly longer as well. Again, once more, nothing that can be done by Higsby. Really gets sideways coming out of turn 3 there. He's closing in once again on his teammate. He might try to send it going into this corner. No, he thinks better of it once more. But it keeps holding him up and lets Lowe close back in. Here's the other interesting thing. Ryan Hurricane is starting to close in on Zola now. Oh, and that's Steel! And Steel has gone around with significant front wing damage on the machine. And that will knock both Mercedes out of the top 10 once more. Higsby still trying to make something happen against Young Maneuver, his teammate. But even with DRS and ERS, it's not really working. The one time Higsby got alongside Young Maneuver, he got alongside him too quick, and it let the DRS go in favor of his teammate onto the next straightaway. A little bit of a bobble from Higsby there. Again, those soft tires are going to start falling away sooner rather than later. If Higsby wants to take the top spot, he needs to do it as soon as possible. And that is the lapped car of XRL. Well, not quite lapped. He's still on the lead lap for the moment. But that is XRL Steel ahead of them, and he might serve to put a spanner in the works of his battle for a lead. Higsby on the outside of Young Maneuver, and now Young Maneuver will have the DRS going down this straightaway. But it looks like it's happened, and Higsby has now officially gotten himself by Young Maneuver here. A little bit of a bobble from Young Maneuver there means that Lowe is going to have a chance to close in, and he might be able to try something against Young Maneuver. Again, soft tire compound significantly faster than anything that the mediums have to offer here. And Lowe had a good run coming out of that corner. He's looking to make a move, but thinks better of it for now. But he has a much better line going to turn one and very nearly runs to the back of them. Good job. He sails the momentum onto the inside. So Young Maneuver from first to third in roughly a lap's time. And Lowe goes up into second spot now. Now, Lowe is putting his focus on Higsby, and Higsby does not have the advantage of a DRS on a car ahead of him. But these two cars have soft tire compounds. Young still has mediums, and he's not fallen off significantly compared to them since falling to third. So this battle could still go back in favor of Young Maneuver as it continues on. This is really the only active battle going on circuit, and it's the most interesting one because it's for the lead of the race. Also of note, Lowe has time penalties, while neither Higsby or Young Maneuver have time penalties at this point in the race. Ooh, here comes Lowe. He looks on the outside of Higsby. He's going to try and do a crossover. Neck and neck going down the straight, and Higsby has DRS once more. This could be the next overtake for a lead position. Higsby comes down to cut off Lowe's momentum. Lowe looks to the outside, can't make it stick, but he's going to try a crossover, gets right underneath him. He's going to get the wing around front. They're going to be neck and neck. They're side by side for a lead, and he's going to finish the overtake. Oh, wow, look at that there, and Young Maneuver is going to get back in front of his teammate Higsby now. That was a daring, a bold, and brash move from Lowe. Absolutely outstanding performance, and Collie Boy has just not been knocked out of the race. And Collie Boy has had an accident. We're trying to see where his car is, but he seems to be stopped. I don't know what's happened. We're now under a virtual safety car. And Collie Boy will be the second DNF of the event. Collie Boy, the second DNF of the event, and we'll bring out our second virtual safety car of the day. Coming in the party right now is Collie Boy. Collie Boy, go ahead, include your audio. What just happened on the track there? Collie Boy, can you hear me? Yeah, real quickly, what happened there? Alright, it's a shame to see that happen to you. Anything else in general you want to say about this race or anything at all? Alright, well, it's a shame to see you knocked out this early, mate. Alright. Alright, have a good time. Well, that's your second DNF of the day, Collie Boy. His teammate Kinsey Retro, though, is still in the top 10 due to just keeping his nose clean. But this is a battle as Hurricane has just overtaken Zola, so we are now at the position where I think we'd say the Softs are starting to lose pace compared to the medium tire compound. Higsby has fallen off. The battle between Young Maneuver and Low is now a two-horse race for the top spot. And then the other thing to notice is that Danny, he still has 10 seconds before he can catch Smoothie, but Danny has cracked the points and is now earning more and more points as this is going on. So things are looking relatively good in his favor right now. Again, right now, the circumstances between Young Maneuver and XRL Low. Young Maneuver has medium tires, while Low has softs. And Young Maneuver has DRS, while Low still does not. This could be a great chance for Young Maneuver to make a move going into turn 3. He looks to the inside, very aggressive, sending it. Is not giving up one bit, but now things are going to be different. The DRS is going to go back in favor of Low this time, going down this straightaway. Low has the softer tires, Young Maneuver has the harder tires. They're still neck and neck, and going into the corner. Oh, a little bit of a lockup from Low as he's still there underneath Young Maneuver, but Young Maneuver is going to hold on for now. And then just ahead of them, this is another battle. Steel and Soak are fighting for position, and they're both fighting to stay on the lead lap. Soak is on hard tire compound. Steel has put on softs after he had an accident. So Steel and Soak desperately trying to stay on the lead lap. And Soak started on the front row. And Low has just fallen off the position from Young Maneuver is coming into the pits. So Young Maneuver is coming into the pits now on medium tires. Oh, and PPR Venom has had an incident. PPR Venom has had an accident. He's back underway now, but a significant accident for him that's not going to help whatsoever. As we put our focus back on this battle, Steel needs to try and catch and overtake Soak as soon as possible because Low is not too far behind him. And the other drivers who aren't too far behind, Zola is still within DRS range against Hurricane, but the tires are falling away on that Renault, and it's keeping them from really being able to do anything right now. Again, Steel just trying to stay on the lead lap right now, as is Soak. Oh, and Venom has just gone out. He's retired in the pits at least, but he is now out of the race. Steel still has relatively fresh softs compared to those hards, so he'll have the ability to stay underneath Soak for a while. Down the straight. Not able to do anything. Oh, look at that. He sent it. Put 2 tires on the grass. Lick the stem. Send it. And he does not end up holding the position because he overshoots and ruins the corner. And now here comes the race leader behind him. And Steel has fallen more than 2 seconds off from Soak now. A little bit farther back, Higsby is now behind the Renault of Smoothie, and Smoothie is behind Young Maneuver, and Young Maneuver is seen Torpedo up there. So this is an interesting multi-car battle from 4th to 7th that has formed. Now the interesting thing here is that Smoothie and Torpedo are there because they're still on the same soft tires that started the race on. They will eventually have to pit. Higsby and Young Maneuver are on fresh mediums. Higsby trying to see what he can do behind Smoothie, not being too aggressive with the pressure right now. Young Maneuver, on the other hand, already putting some intense pressure on Torpedo. Torpedo's teammate Venom has already dropped out of the event. And Zola has come into the pit lane. He will pit out of the 3rd position. Here are Higsby. Great run. He has DRS on Smoothie, but Smoothie's Renault is better set up for a straight line. And farther up, you can see Young Maneuver and Torpedo going at it. And he's got him on the inside, but now Torpedo will have the DRS back against the Tracy points. But he's not close enough. He's actually lost time on the straight. He's closing in just a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. So now Young Maneuver is going to have clean track ahead of him once more. Higsby right there behind Smoothie, but not able to make it happen yet. DRS for both the Renault and the Tracing Point, but the Tracing Point had a better line, and this time he's got the inside lane going onto this straight. But now he does not have DRS, while the Renault does have DRS. Torpedo has opted to come into the pit lane. There you are. Higsby pretty much just walked away from Smoothie 25. Zola has equipped fresh medium tires, and now he will see if he can run down Smoothie, his teammate, before Smoothie inevitably comes in to change his tires. And then real quickly, I want to point out this little battle between Dave Ewart, Torpedo, and Kinsey Retro. All 3 of these drivers are on radically different strategies. Dave Ewart, and Lowe is coming into the pits right now to take off his sauce, so now Ryan Hurricane will inherit the race lead. So these 3 drivers, Torpedo is on fresh mediums, Ewart is on very worn sauce, and Kinsey is on moderately worn hards. And Dave Ewart goes around! But he keeps it off the inside wall. Be careful merging back onto the track. But we can now see that it looks like those soft tires are basically useless around the time they get to 22 laps or so. So for drivers like Mr. Anderson, he's going to need to be very careful going forward. But Dave Ewart now out of the points-paying positions. And he comes into the pits. Smoothie 25 and XRL Torpedo are in a little bit of a spat behind. Oh no, that's not behind. That's Smoothie and Kinsey Retro, and they're behind Torpedo. I read that wrong. Again, Kinsey is on hard tire compounds, and he has DRS on Smoothie 25. He's sending it up on the inside, but thinks better of it. Again, Smoothie has the better and the more grippier set of tires. However, for right now, they're cold. They won't stay cold. Once we get about a full lap around, they should be up to ideal operating temperature, though. And then Smoothie will put his focus back on Torpedo ahead of him. Meanwhile, in the Balfour Championship, Danny has worked his way up into the 6th position. And while he's still a long way out, and Lowe and Higsby have just had a little bit of an overtake there, as Lowe has just gotten back by Higsby now. But as I was saying, Danny has worked his way up into the 6th position. So for all intents and purposes, he has recovered almost completely from the disqualification he suffered in qualifying session 1 that forced him to start from the back of the field. He's up in the 6th, and it looks like with the pace he has, he will only continue to gain time. Ryan Hurricane, your race leader, has come into the pit, so that means that will be Young Maneuver that will inherit the race lead here. Lowe has just set the fastest lap of the race, and Higsby is right there behind him still. Now, the interesting thing is that Lowe is still on soft tires and is using that to slowly outrun Higsby. And that's another interesting thing. So Zola came in way earlier than Ryan Hurricane, and Hurricane really pushed his mediums a lot farther than necessary, and Zola has already leapfrogged Ryan Hurricane in on-track positions. He's actually just outside the DRS range right now. So for the moment, Zola has taken 4th place ahead of Ryan Hurricane, and Hurricane is now only 1 spot ahead of Danny instead of 5 spots ahead like he was earlier. Lowe still fighting against Young Maneuver. This is the battle for the potential race lead. Not really potential, it would be the actual race lead, because actually everyone in the top 5 are now on the same pit strategy, or very similar pit strategies at this point. Here we are, Lowe utilizing the DRS to close in. Fastest lap thus far, 107.839, and those times will only continue to drop as the fuel load burns out. And we will likely see times in the 105s again in the last few laps of this race. But Lowe still right there behind Young Maneuver. He dives to the inside, then looks outside, and is not able to make either of them work. And Ryan Hurricane has just overtaken Zola. The soft tire is really proving to be the ideal tire compound for today's event. Lowe on the outside of Young Maneuver. Very nearly a little bit of contact. Young Maneuver had trouble putting the power down to stay in a straight line. And Silk has had an incident. He's back on track, but he's going to go another lap down, I believe. Actually, it would be his first lap down. And here's another battle. Mr. Anderson on worn softs has caught XRL Torpedo. But those softs, he's going to have to change off of them very shortly. Those soft tires are not going to last under the intense pressure of being in the aerodynamic wake of another car, especially when they already have 20 laps of wear on them. Young Maneuver still has DRS and Lowe, but now the situation has changed. Lowe has the softs, and the 2 Racing Point have medium tires, so they're the ones in the prime position. Mr. Anderson still right there behind Torpedo. And Lowe's just set the fastest lap. He has just outran Young Maneuver that entire lap, as Soak now goes a lap down. And there we are. Mr. Anderson is finally going to come into the pits. And with that, all of the battles on track will have basically dissipated. So real quickly, we're going to change from the detail of the tires to what we see in time penalties. And I'm going to be very honest, right now for Soak, it's not looking very good. In these races, you're only allowed to get a maximum of 28 seconds worth of penalties in a XRL race. We're not even halfway through the race, and Soak already has half of those penalties earned. And he's currently cruising around the 14th position, a lap down. So that's not looking very good for him at all. The other thing that's going to be very interesting is that Young Maneuver has no time penalties, while Lowe has 6 seconds worth right now, and then Higsby has 3 seconds. So that could very quickly turn very interesting if Higsby has some bad laps and Ryan Hurricane closes in. or if Lowe is not able to pull more than 6 seconds away from the maneuver. And now here's the next thing to consider. Danny is the only car, well, one of only 2 cars, with Kinsey being the other one, but they are the only cars that are on the same tire set that they started this race on. Danny has made up all these positions thus far. A good part of them have been from being able to make overtakes on track. We've seen that, but he's made a lot of these positions up by just not having to stop yet. When he eventually stops, though, he's likely going to fall back to about 7th or 8th, maybe even 9th position. Kinsey Retro is still on hards compared to Danny, who's on mediums. And when Kinsey pits, he's likely going to just jump onto one more set of tires and run whatever that set is to the end of the event. If Kinsey can go all the way to lap 36, he would ideally be able to jump onto a set of mediums if he's very careful with the mediums. However, if that doesn't happen, and that is Zola, and Zola, who had been fighting for a lead earlier, has just had something happen, and he is now falling behind Danny. And with some significant front wing damage, the Renault comes into the pit lane. And now Ryan Hurricane is going to be feeling the regret from the accident that he suffered, pretty much self-inflicted, in the last 5 laps at Catalunya. The normal drivers we see floating to the top are the ones who are at the top, so that means that realistically, unless something crazy happens to Danny, Ryan might gain a few points, but it's not going to be enough to take anything serious out of Danny's points lead. Meanwhile, real quickly, I just want to point out Dave Ebart and XRL Steel, both of these drivers are still on the lead lap despite having 2 separate incidents. But things are going to get very interesting for them both because Steel is on 17 lap worn soft tires. Lowe is on 7 lap worn soft tires. So Steel inevitably is going to have to come into the pits and get a new set of tires on the car. And when he does, he's going to drop off of the lead lap. And that will likely end any chance of him earning points after a self-inflicted accident coming around turn 3. Dave Ewart is in a slightly safer scenario. He is on medium tires that are just about as old as Lowe. Now, he is slower on track compared to Lowe right now, but as long as he can keep his Alfa Romeo ahead of the McLaren of Lowe, he will stay in the lead lap, and he just moves over for him, so he's not even going to try and fight. So Dave Ewart now goes a lap down, and he will join Soak and Level 6 BCN as drivers who are a lap down in this event. A little bit farther up through the field, this is Smoothie 25, and up ahead of him, he sees XRL Torpedo. He had a little bit of DRS and is using it to close in on him. And here's the other thing to notice. I don't know if you've noticed there, those of you who are watching, but the sky is starting to go dark. And if rain happens here, it can throw a wrench into everything. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying if it happens, it could really throw a wrench in everything. But right now, the track is going to get cooler. It's going to be a little bit harder to get the tires up to proper temperature when you do come into the pit lane. So here's something interesting to take note of. Ryan Hurricane is now closing in on Higsby. Hurricane is on fresher sauce. Higsby is on slightly more medium tires, and he is closing in. He actually has DRS in some of the straights now. So Ryan Hurricane is trying to close in and make himself a contender for the podium positions. Danny has gone 32 laps on this set of medium tires, and it seems like both Danny and Kinsey Retro are going to be on similar strategies, going on just one stop, a medium to hard, or in Kinsey's case, starting on hards and then going to mediums to the end. A very bold strategy, but considering how much faster the softs are, it's going to be very interesting to see if it can be made to work. But now the focus is Ryan Hurricane, because he has caught both of the tracing points. Now for now, Higsby is going to have DRS on his teammate, Young Maneuver, going down this straight. So the ability for Ryan to actually close in on Higsby is going to be somewhat negated. Oh wow, he made a lot of it up under braking though. get very interesting. That is Dave Ewart, who pulls off the circuit briefly to not interfere with this battle. This is Elfin Starfish as Beastian behind him, as now Steel has also gone a lap down to low. Elfin Starfish is now trying to stay on the lead lap. Once again, our focus is on this. Ryan Hurricane right there behind Higsby. Very good line coming out of turn 1. He's right there behind him. And this time, Higsby does not have DRS, so Ryan Hurricane is going to go right by. Thing is, he went by so quickly that now Higsby is going to have DRS back on the Ferrari on this straightaway. But he did not have a good run going through that corner, though. Oh, and Kinsey Retro has gone around. And he was in the top 10 positions when he finally went around. And there's no way around it. He is going to have to come into the pits to get off those hard tires. And he has not quite gone an entire half. He's going to go one more lap. He is very, very committed to trying to go as far as he can on these tires. Torpedo and Smoothie now having their own little spat going down the straightaway. Smoothie has overtaken Torpedo, and both of these cars are on relatively evenly worn tires, so it's going to be better driver and better car who wins this battle. Torpedo got alongside Smoothie, but wasn't able to do anything to him, and that is lapped traffic of Soak, who's trying to capitalize. He is one of the faster cars on track right now, but he's just not been very consistent, and he's going to get by Torpedo. Oh, and Torpedo goes off circuit now. Right through the dirt. Meanwhile, Young Maneuver has Ryan Hurricane in his rearview mirror, and the Ferrari is trying to close in. Closes in very well under straight line. Still has DRS on Young Maneuver, and at this point, Young Maneuver does not have DRS on any cars ahead. So for Ryan Hurricane, this is the ideal time to make the overtake before his softs start wearing away, being in the aerodynamic wake of that tracing point for so long. Down the straightaway, the Ferrari looks to the outside, and you can see Young Maneuver actually slows down, so that way he will be guaranteed the DRS on this next straightaway. So Young Maneuver going to try some clever tricks to get back alongside the Ferrari going into turn 4 here. He's looking on the outside. The Ferrari pinching him, but he locks up. Ryan Hurricane locks up just a bit. Young Maneuver is still there. He's fighting them back on the inside, neck and neck. This is for his second position. And Young Maneuver, very excellently timed strategy. He is going to hold on for second position for just a little bit longer. But how long can it last? Because now Ryan Hurricane is even closer to Young Maneuver this time than he was last time we came through this part of the racetrack. He is going to walk by Young Maneuver on this straight, I imagine. Not yet. He holds back just a bit. And now he gets a time penalty for track violations. So that means that the battle is going to be in Young Maneuver's favor for just a little bit longer. Here he is, he goes to the inside, and again, Young Maneuver, this time it's Young Maneuver is still ahead, so Ryan Hurricane will still have DRS going down this straightaway. Oh, but Young Maneuver had DRS on the Mercedes of Steel. And now Elfin Starfish has gone a lap down, as has Kinsey Retro. So now there are only 9 cars on the lead lap of this race. And Ryan Hurricane, blatantly faster than Young Maneuver, but Young Maneuver is just a little bit better put together when it comes to his defense and some very strategic ideas as to when he should and shouldn't get on and off the throttle and timing the DRS. He's doing a great job holding on to second right now. But XRL low trying to do a last to first run, started dead last after crashing out very early in qualifying, is now leading this race and is going to try and win this from the back to the front. Here comes Ryan Hurricane. He is on the inside of Young Maneuver for good this time. He's got the Ferrari ahead, so this means that Young Maneuver should have the DRS coming onto this next straightaway, though. Exactly what it means. There's simply nothing that Ryan Hurricane is able to do to truly get himself ahead of Young Maneuver. Danny, I just want to say, has gone 38 laps on his medium tires. We know you can go 22 laps on the softs before they start dying on you. So if Danny is going to somehow, I don't know if he could actually do it, but he might try and jump onto softs twice in these last few, with two-stop strategy, where these last two stops, he just jumps onto softs and then sends it. There's no one directly around him. There's the next driver to him on time and position is 15 seconds behind. And here we are, Ryan Hurricane has just gone by Young Maneuver on the straight using the DRS, but now again, Young Maneuver has DRS going down this straightaway, but he's farther out from the Ferrari than he was before. It looks like that battle is pretty much over. So as I was saying, Danny is in a position that he could probably jump in for two stops and just go softs to the rest of this race. Keep those softs always in an ideal position, and he could end up being not only one of the fastest drivers on the track, but could potentially steal the fastest lap of the race. Kinsey Retro has had another incident. He needs to come into the pits sooner rather than later. He continues to burn these hards off, and he is going to go a lap down. Actually, I take that back. Kinsey is a lap down already, but he's about to lose a points paying position to Elfin Starfish here because he just keeps tasking those hards way more than he should be. Elfin Starfish is on extremely warm mediums, but even extremely warm mediums are going to be faster than dead hards. So it seems like right now, those hards and that strategy to start the race on the hards has not worked out for Kinsey Retro, as he has now fallen out of the points paying positions and is not on track to gain any serious time. The interesting thing between the battle between Ryan Hurricane and Young Maneuver, it's taken long enough that now the battle will start going back in favor for Young Maneuver, as Ryan Hurricane is going to start losing pace, as will Lowe, who is in the race lead right now. Kinsey Retro still within DRS range of Elfin Starfish, so he may have a chance of fighting back against Starfish for that 10th place point. However, both of their tires are dying and dying very quickly, and again, I want to point to Danny 41 laps on his tires, but he is now 21 seconds out of 4th alone. So even if 4th place was to pit right now, Danny, it's very unlikely he'd even be able to capitalize. I think Danny's progression up to the field is likely going to stall out here, because even if he's going to make it to where he can make his final stop on lap 49 and just jump on the softs and run softs to the end, I see no way that he'll be able to make up 22 seconds compared to Higsby, who is in 4th. Although, granted, the gap would actually be a little bit less than that. It would be closer to 18 seconds, 18, 19 seconds, because Higsby has a time penalty against him. And Kinsey sitting out another lap on the race circuit as he continues to slug it out with Elfin Starfish. Now he goes to the inside and very cleanly overtakes him on the straightaway. Now the thing is, though, Elfin Starfish will have DRS back on Kinsey going down this straight. Oh, and Danny gets a time penalty of 5 seconds. He's finally coming to the pit lane and gets a time penalty for speeding in it. And he's jumping onto the softs, and Danny must think that he can make those softs last to the end of the race. Either that, or he might make another pit stop and just never let those softs fall out of operating range. But Danny is now falling behind Smoothie 25 and XRL Torpedo, and might even fall behind Zola if Zola gets a good run down the straight. But these two, Kinsey Retro and Elfin Starfish, continue to slug it out here for 10th and 11th. Oh, Jesus! That's a lot of contact right there. Looks like BCM back here. He's got a good view of these two fighting. Very physical, very aggressive on both of their parts, as Kinsey is now back into points paying position. And Kinsey cannot go to the end of the race on these tires. He is going to be required to pit once, to change tires once before this race is over. God, more contact between the two of them. Oh, Jesus, that should have knocked Kinsey right off the circuit. Oh, God. These are Formula 1 cars. They're not Indy cars. They can't take beatings like this. You two have got to calm it down. Neither of them have pitted yet, and Kinsey is now going to make it 44 laps on these hard tire compounds. There he is. Kinsey shoots up to the inside once more. With DRS is going to just breeze ahead of Elfin Starfish, but Starfish will have DRS on this next straightaway. And forget that, he's going to lunge it up on the inside in the braking, and Kinsey did not get a good run putting the power down at all. Kinsey still has 10th over Elfin Starfish for the moment. Starfish has to back out there. Starfish's tires, he's run over half the race on this set, and Lowe has finally come into the pit lane. He is jumping off of his tires and is putting on another set. So Ryan Hurricane will inherit the race lead once more, and there you are. So now we finally see Elfin Starfish jumping into the pit lane. Kinsey Retro is going to be in 10th for now. Smoothie 25 has 21 laps on his tires, but he's still 51 seconds out from XRL Low. Just to put things in perspective, in regards to the leaders, only the top 9 drivers are on the lead lap right now. Although we anticipate that Ryan Hurricane will pit one more time before this race is over. And when he does pit, he will end up giving the lead back over a Young Maneuver. And I think the 9 drivers who are currently on the lead lap will stay on the lead lap to the end of this race. And there you are. Ryan Hurricane is coming into the pits now. And he will immediately drop out of the top 4, probably all the way down to 5th. No, he's going to hold on to 4th, actually, because Smoothie is not close enough to do anything. And Ryan Hurricane puts on another set of softs, and these softs, he's going to have to make them last 23 laps to the end of this race. But these are that is going to be the last set of tires they will put on that Ferrari for today. As Kinsey Retro finally is going to pit out of 10th position and will finally put on a set of medium tires for the day, but he is now going to drop all the way down to 13th. He doesn't have to pit again, but it's going to hurt him to say the least. So now once again, Tracing Point runs 1-2. And Danny has caught Smoothie and is ready to make something happen. Oh, and Young Maneuver is pitting. So Young Maneuver is making his final stop. He's going to jump onto soft tires as well. So now the question is, how long is Higsby going to stay out? And when he pits, what's going to be between them? As Ryan Hurricane is now ahead of Young Maneuver. But again, Young Maneuver does not have time penalties. Ryan Hurricane does. And will Higsby stay on these mediums to the end, or will he pit? Because when Higsby pits, he's going to fall all the way back to the 4th position. But he'll be able to push the softs just a little bit longer. Danny has just overtaken Smoothie 25. And here's another little battle. Soak has caught Elfin Starfish for the 12th positions. And here comes Higsby. He is going to come into the pits now. So Lowe inherits the lead. And Lowe is going to run these medium tires to the end of this race. But Ryan Hurricane, Young Maneuver behind him will both be running softs to chase him down. And Higsby will be also, because Higsby has just put on softs as well. .3 seconds between Lowe and Hurricane. But when it comes to time penalties, Hurricane only has 3 seconds while Lowe has 6. So realistically, Lowe can just get within 3 seconds of... If Hurricane can get within 3 seconds of Lowe, he will take that position from him. The thing is, Young Maneuver is then the next thing to take in consideration. Oh, and that is Beastian. And Beastian has had an accident there at the exit of turn 3. The car seems to be beached. Nope, it looks like he's going no good now. So now the race begins in earnest. How far can Hurricane and Young Maneuver and Higsby close in on Lowe before the end of this race? And can they do it without accumulating more time penalties? Young Maneuver just set the fastest time of the day, 106.951. A little bit farther up in the field, this is Zola. He sees XRL Torpedo ahead of him, and that will be about for the 6th and 7th positions. Torpedo is on very worn mediums, while Zola is on moderately worn mediums. That he needs to somehow, both of these drivers either need to pit again or drag these tires out for another 20 laps. And Zola is not going to push it. He is going to come into the pits and will likely throw on softs to the end of the day. Torpedo is staying on the mediums for just a little bit longer, but I imagine he will likely jump onto softs as well before this race ends, as probably will Mr. Anderson, because he is at 21 laps on his tires, Ideally, jumping on the softs would be a better option. I imagine the same will be the case for Dave Ewart as well. There we are, Smoothie 25 and Zola both are now on soft tire compounds, and Kinsey Retro gets a time penalty for track violations, as he is fighting with Soak right now. Kinsey ran a bold strategy, one stop hard to mediums, but it's proven to be completely pointless because the soft tires are just so incredibly important here. But Kinsey has caught Soak, and Soak has caught Elfin Starfish. And now Torpedo is going to pit out of the 6th position and will put on soft tires that will let him go to the end of this race. Danny, time penalty for track violations. And Dave Ewart is going to pit and will fall down the order, as he is probably going to put on soft tires to go to the end of the race as well. Torpedo still hanging out there behind Zola, as Mr. Anderson is finally coming into the pit lane. So now everyone who is not the lead, everyone in the top 9 who is not the leader is going to be running soft tires to the end of this race. This is going to be the really interesting thing. Young Maneuver, no time penalties, and he is running down Ryan Hurricane, who does have a time penalty, and if he runs down Ryan Hurricane fast enough, he might be able to run down Low, who has even more time penalties. So Young Maneuver might still walk out of this race with the lead. But now Zola and Torpedo have also both gone a lap down to XRL Low. The thing is, Low is on medium tires and he's way slower than both Zola and Torpedo. So both of these two drivers could actually fight to try and get back on the lead lap. Right now, only 6 cars are on the lead lap at the moment. And Low is really playing havoc in this battle between Zola and Torpedo, because Torpedo can't utilize the DRS to properly get ahead of Zola on the straights. He closes on the straights, but because Zola has DRS on Low, he can't do anything about it. Meanwhile, Young Maneuver is closing on Ryan Hurricane, and that's the other thing to watch. And XRL Steel has just lost the position to Elfin Starfish, so he's going to fall back out of the points-paying positions. And Kinsey Retro has just gotten by Steel as well. I believe there is damage. I don't see damage, but something has happened to Steel as he has now fallen from 10th to 13th in just a few laps. Now, the crazy thing is, though, everyone from 10th to 13th is all... Oh, and that's Soak, and Soak has had an accident. Torpedo still there behind Zola. The good news for Lowe is that his tires will last to the end. He doesn't have to worry about them falling off. Everyone who's chasing, their tires are going to fall off. The thing for Lowe, though, is that Zola wants to get back on the lead lap. You see Lowe locking up the tires, just trying to stay ahead of the Renault, because he can't just move aside and let the Renault by, because if he does, those time penalties he have would immediately put him behind these two, Ryan Hurricane and Young Maneuver. Zola still trying to get back on the lead lap, but he seems to have backed off a little bit from your race leader. Again, only 6 drivers are currently on the lead lap of this race. Ryan Hurricane has gotten by Soak and will use him as a pick to try and keep Young Maneuver behind him a bit longer. Ryan Hurricane just needs to get within 3 seconds of Lowe. Soak has a 5-second time penalty now for ignoring the blue flags. And when it comes down to time penalties now, Soak has 20 seconds worth. You're not allowed more than 28 seconds in these full-length races. And that's Soak who is coming into the pits now. And he gets another time penalty for speeding in pit lane. So one more, and Soak has DNF'd from the race. The time penalties have now added up, and his race is over, despite starting on the front row. Besian is extremely slow on the second straightaway now. Not 100% sure what's going on there. Right now, this is the most interesting battle. If Young Maneuver can get ahead of Ryan Hurricane and then close within 6 seconds of Lowe, he will take the race lead, assuming he does not get any more penalties. Young has soft tires that are just 1 lap fresher than Ryan's. But that's not really going to matter much if he burns his tires up running behind the Ferrari this entire time. For Ryan Hurricane, he needs to somehow end up within 3 seconds of Lowe, your race leader. As it stands right now, Young Maneuver would leapfrog Ryan Hurricane and Lowe, just barely, but it would leapfrog both of them into the race lead. Danny has caught Smoothie 25 because Danny has opted to make one more pit stop to jump on the saw, so he's going to try and get the fastest lap of the race. And we'll try and also get 5th before this event's over as well. But for Zola, he is still trapped behind Lowe. Zola knows that he's faster, but hasn't put a whole lot of active pressure to get by Lowe thus far. And the interesting thing is that both Ryan Hurricane and Young Maneuver have outrun Higsby by a significant amount. That was a very smooth DRS-assisted overtake by Danny against Smoothie 25, and he is now 5th. Thing is, Danny is 40 seconds out from Higsby. I see no way that he's going to be higher than 5th in the end of this race, unless someone in the top 4 crashes out. Young Maneuver still right there behind Ryan Hurricane. And that battle seems to have now gone firmly in favor of Jan Maneuver. And he is within 6 seconds of XRL low. While a little bit farther back, Steele is catching Kinsey Retro. This is a battle for the 11th position. Danny, 106.088. So we are now seeing times comparable to what we were seeing in the slower bits of Q2. Oh wow, and Steele goes around and hits the outside wall. And so, look, I'm going to be very honest. I understand that it's supposed to be the slower drivers who are put in the Mercedes cars. But the experiment obviously has not worked out very well because the Mercedes are, yes, they're kind of diva-ish, but neither Level 6 BCN or XR Steel have showcased any ability to be consistently strong in the Mercedes. They are given the best cars. I'm not saying that the Mercedes drivers should be winning the races all the time. Absolutely not. But we are seeing a massive, consistent problem where the faster drivers are significantly hindered by cars that are just outright dog. And then the slower drivers cannot do anything with the fastest cars on the track. It looks like what would happen if you gave Mahiva Raghunathan a ride in the Mercedes. It's honestly that disappointing. And Steele's a great person. BCN is a great person. But when it comes to on-track ability, neither of them seem to be able to properly set up regarding their competition to the rest of the field. Every single race, we see BCN being 1 to 3 laps down, and we see Steele barely hanging on to the lead lap or a lap down as well. Now, Steele has gotten some points here and there, but normally they came from either clean laps, having no penalties at the end of the race, or from just surviving to the end of a very chaotic event. We hardly ever see either of the Mercedes drivers being able to actually take a fight directly to other cars on their track. And to be very honest, it has significantly harmed the quality of racing when it comes to the the rear parts of the field. Because once you get past about halfway or a little bit more in these races, the normal drivers you see in the back end up in the back. And the normal drivers you see in the front end up in the front. Because the fast drivers can't do very much with slow dog crap cars. And the slow drivers are not able to adapt to the fastest and best cars in the game. So what we see in the midfield isn't a true representation of who actually has the best ability. It's just who kind of averages out best, comparing their ability to their personal ability to their car's ability. I know it's kind of a very harsh and rude thing to say, but I will say that if this series was envisioned to give people who are in slower cars like Haas's or not Haas's, like in the Mercedes or Red Bulls, give them a chance to really showcase their ability, it's failed. Because of the top 3 big manufacturers in normal Formula 1, the only one that has actually repeatedly done a good time showcasing what they can do is Ryan Hurricane in the Ferrari. His teammate does not do very well. He's not horrible, but he doesn't do very well. He's nowhere near the ability of them. The Red Bull drivers are very, very spotty, to say the least. And the Mercedes drivers hardly ever factor into anything except for maybe gain some decent points here and there. And then the good drivers, the really good drivers that are hyped up all the time, and rightfully so. The drivers like Soap6366, like XRL Ultimate, they are put into cars that they cannot do anything with, and it absolutely destroys their ability to actually showcase what they can do. Anyways, Zola continues to run behind Danny, 1 lap down. At this point, I'm going to be honest, Zola might not realize it, but he's actually being held up by Lowe more and more as this is going on, because first and second and third are closing, and they're closing at a respectable rate. for 8th and 9th. Torpedo and Mr. Anderson going at it. Currently, this is the most interesting battle on track. Most of the other battles have kind of dissipated, although Elfin Starfish and Kinsey Retro are in a position where they could end up fighting again. Right now, Lowe is leading the race, but with 6 seconds of penalties against him, while Young Maneuver has no penalties against him, it's looking more and more likely that this race is going to go in favor for Young Maneuver to win. Here he is. Mr. Anderson finally gets on the inside of Torpedo and cleanly overtakes him in the straight. But now Torpedo will have... No, actually, Mr. Anderson didn't overtake him too early. So Mr. Anderson actually will have DRS against Torpedo on this straightaway. Now Torpedo will have DRS fighting back, going down this straight. And that is a Red Bull. That is Kinsey Retro, who has gone off circuit once again. Anyways, Mr. Anderson has now finally gotten by Torpedo. And it looks like that battle, for the moment at least, has ended. Oh, and Danny! Danny has had an accident! And your points leader has had an incident! And the car is stopped. He's not able to go anywhere because there are cars going by at full speed. And there's 2 laps left in the race. So the same thing that happened to Ryan Hurricane at Catalunya is now happening to Danny. The advantage, though, for Danny is that the car is still alive. He's not going to fall out of the top 10 at least, but falling all the way to 9th is going to significantly harm him, especially with Ryan Hurricane en route to a potential top 3 finish. The points battle goes even more up in the air now, as Danny, who was running just outside the top 5, is now fallen all the way to 9th position. I'm sorry, he was ranked fifth. He was ranked in the top 5. He was 5th. And now he's going to fall to 9th. So this is going to be a massive, massive harm for him in the title fight. And now Torpedo's on the inside, Mr. Anderson once more. And now here's the real question. The softs are falling off for Young Maneuver. He needs to stay within 6 seconds of XRL low, and this is the last lap. Lows, tires are still fine. Young Maneuvers are dying on him. This is the battle still for 7th and 8th position. This is going to get interesting because Ryan Hurricane is right there behind Young Maneuver. If Young Maneuver has to fight to defend against Hurricane, he's going to lose it. Right now, it's less than half a second. Young Maneuver is losing the ground that he needs. He now has less than 4/10 between himself and Low. He needs to close that gap, or at least keep it steady. Because coming to the line out of the final corner is going to be XRL Low. He'll cross the line first. Where is Young Maneuver going to cross the line in comparison? Will it be enough to get him the win? Yes, it will be. Young Maneuver is going to win the race with Ryan Hurricane coming home 3rd. Here comes Higsby all by himself on the racetrack. Mr. Anderson has gotten back by XRL Torpedo at the line. Here comes Smoothie 25, and he will finish the race in the 5th position. This is Danny, as he is going to come home in the 9th spot, but it should have been significantly better with all that front wing damage. It's amazing that it didn't end up going way worse. Elephant Starfish will come home 10th, and will get points. And Low, so close, but in the end, so far from going end to end when it came from back to the front to winning this race. So now, the race is over. And here on the podium, there's your race winner, Young Maneuver, with an incredible drive. No time penalties whatsoever, and he is going to take home the trophy today. And for Ryan Hurricane, a 3rd place finish compared to 9th for Danny is going to feel very, very refreshing for the Ferrari driver. We're going to try and get Young Maneuver in here to see what he has to say about that fascinating victory here. And good job to Smoothie 25 also for not getting time penalties. All right, coming into the party right now is Young Maneuver, who is your winner here at Austria. Young Maneuver, go ahead and include your audio. What do you have to say about that incredible victory? All right, well, I'm going to say this. I know you missed a lot of races earlier, but do you think it's possible that you can mount a championship fight from this late in the season? All right, well, there's your word from your race winner, Young Maneuver. Absolutely outstanding job taking home the win and fighting like crazy all day today with your teammate, with the McLarens, with the Ferraris. It was wonderful watching you today, and I look forward to seeing more from you going forward. All right. Well, anyways, that's the word from your race winner in a very, very interesting and extreme race, to say the least. Very, very crazy in a lot of ways. This is one of the reasons I've always loved this circuit here at Austria. There's always something that seems to happen that makes things very, very interesting in one way or another. However, with that said, we're going to go ahead and close out our broadcast here very shortly. It's been a great race. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. UK time, on the main channel will be Kenzie Retro, who will be broadcasting X1, and I'll be covering X3. And again, those races will also be at Austria. Then at 8 p.m. UK time will be the X2 race, which is going to be covered by... I don't remember who covers that. We'll get back to you on that later. And we look forward to seeing you there in a week's time. Then at this same channel on Saturday at 5 p.m. UK will be the Dev League, and at 8 p.m. UK will be the other realistic racing event. But until that time comes, I've been Insanely Your 13. This has been another race in the XRL series, the Realistic Racing League, and I look forward to seeing you all at a later time. Until then, though, farewell.